Hey guys, and welcome to a very special episode of Draw with T. Here I am showing you a pendant I made back in art college. Yes, I made this. Now this is inspired by Morrowind, which is an Elder Scrolls game, which you probably know this symbol from Skyrim. But this pendant and this book, which I also painted and gilded, is fan art from Morrowind. So is this little book here. Now I'm showing you this and another book to come because I basically want to let you guys know how much and how long a fan I've been of the Elder Scrolls series. I started playing Elder Scrolls when the newest game was Morrowind back in 2002. Actually, I think I started playing it in 2004. And I've been a fan ever since. And it's one of the few things, not just games, but things that has stuck with me in such a way for so long that I actually consistently do fan art of it. And this is what I'm doing now. So I'm basically making a acrylic gilded wall hanging. I don't know, it's a piece of art that's going on my wall. Very simple, not much to it, but it means a lot to me, and you know what, that's enough reason to make it. I'm gonna stick it to all my art teachers that wanted everything to mean everything. No, we're just doing a version of the Imperial Dragon with some Daedric writing on it, and it's going to be dark, and it's going to be gilded gold, and that's it. It's going to sit on my wall. So here I've cut a piece of canvas-like material, canvas paper I believe it's called, and I'm just mixing various layers of sort of dark brown and black, and just coating it. It's already been gessoed, it comes pre-gessoed, and yeah. Not much to it. I originally was hoping to do just a straight brown out of a tube, but that ended up being too light. I wanted something black, but with a little bit of richness to it, kind of like a very, very dark coffee color. Reason being is that what I'm making here is sort of a hybrid fan art between Skyrim and Morrowind. The Daedric phrase, it says, many fall at the top, and at the bottom it says, but one remains. So many fall, but one remains is the ending line of a important poem in the game Morrowind. And the actual version of the Imperial Dragon that you see here is also a version of it from Morrowind, in that there's, you know, the diamond at the top, and the whole thing is not wrecked. If you look carefully at the Skyrim one, there's a tine missing at the bottom, and there's no diamond, and that's very symbolic for the game because, you know, there's no red diamond emperor, whatever it is. It's to do with the septum line. I don't want to get too much into the game talk here, even though I could, because I'm quite a fan. But yeah, so the actual dragon itself is the Skyrim version of the logo, but restored. And I actually did that restoration myself some years back, before Bethesda really did remakes of previous games or ESO. That's anytime you see me working with that exact version of the Imperial Dragon, that's my rendition of it. Like, I actually went in and restored everything and did vectors and traced out the Skyrim logo and extrapolated it. But nowadays, thanks to Google, you can basically just find almost an exact version of it done by Bethesda. So, you know, if you want to follow along, you totally can quite easily. But I'm still proud of myself that I did such a good job that it's basically, you know, you can't tell my version from Bethesda's version. Not that that's saying much, because, I mean, it's, you know, there's not much yet to extrapolate. Anyways, moving on to the gilding. Here I'm cutting out pieces of gold leaf to basically get this ready. Now, if any of you are wondering how to gold leaf, basically this is how it works. You don't want to touch the gold leaf with your hands. If you do, it's game over. The leaf is so thin that if you look at it the wrong way, it's going to tear. So I get around this because, you know, I have to cut certain pieces to certain lengths because I don't want to waste this stuff. I get around it by using metal rulers to cut rectangles, which you saw how I did that. I obviously do it on a cutting mat. And then I use these sort of plastic palette knives to kind of jimmy it off and, you know, move it around. And because I have slightly long nails, I'll also use my nails and the palette knife to, you know, move it around. Now, if you're doing gold leaf, you're going to need size, which is the glue, and here you can see I'm using it, the glue for gold leaf. And basically you just apply that like you would paint. to the area that you want gilded. And you want to be kind of liberal with it, but you don't want it to pool too much. There's sort of an in-between, and you'll know it when you start doing it. And then you want to let that dry a bit, but not too much. Now, the recommended dry length is 30 minutes, but 30 minutes is too long for this little portion here. I basically let it dry until it's about clear, and I try not to wait too long, and then very carefully, you can see here I'm using both palette knives, I'm going to try and drape this over top. Now, gold leafing is easy in concept, hard in execution. Here I've got a flannel cloth that I actually made at some point for something else unrelated to this, but you just kind of need a soft, gentle cloth, and what I'm basically doing is I'm just patting down the gold leaf onto the glue. I'm being careful not to like swizzle the cloth around or anything, and there you can kind of see there's a little hole there, so I'm just going to fold the leaf there just in case there is something there that needs to be leafed. And you can kind of see there's sort of gaps in the center there, and that's where the gaps between the letters are sort of forming. So once it's pressed down, I kind of press and jiggle the cloth a little bit, and what that does is just sort of begins to loosen the leaf. And here I kind of slow it down just to show you guys what I mean. You want to do this carefully. You don't want to do it too hard or too light. Too light and you're basically not doing anything and you might rip the leaf right off of the glue. Too hard and you will basically shove the set leaf off the glue and it'll look terrible. And here as I go, I just sort of gently remove the excess leaf from the cloth, because those bigger chunks are useful for future projects, patching up little holes. Now when you're swizzling, kind of doing a second layer of swizzling, you want to be careful at the direction you're going. You don't want to go into the project too much. You want to go kind of from the project out, or you want to take more oblique angles. The reason being that if you try to rub into the project, into the area of the gold leaf, you might tear the gold leaf off and inward, which basically rips chunks out. Now, if you do it more at an oblique angle, or you just kind of go outward, then what you tear off is just purely excess and won't be missed. Take it from experience, because I have, especially with lettering, just kind of gone at it quite heavy-handed, or, just kind of rubbed it whichever way up and down, and it has torn perfectly good leafing off, and I've had to, patch it up and basically redo it. So now moving on to the bottom, it's basically the same thing, gently pat it down. Now I do apologize, I was filming this on another day and I had to rush because I had to work, and it seemed to be, was doing a lot of work shifts that time, and I totally left autofocus on, unfortunately, so you're going to get a lot of this. I do apologize, I do at some point realize this and change it. If you're doing any sort of leafing and you have things like little dots there within letters, you want to be extra careful, because those are things that will come off if you nudge them too much. Now here, I keep a baggie of my extra leaf. That's the main reason I showed that. So moving on to a little bigger thing, and I'm sorry, the autofocus is not working with us here, but moving on to the diamond, this took a while to dry. I'm always a bit nervous when I'm doing something and it dries unevenly, because there's always the danger that the part that dries first might dry too much to take the glue. That is a problem. That's why I don't recommend you wait 30 minutes like they say. Just wait until there's no milkiness to it, that it's gone transparent, and then wait just a little bit longer if it's a bigger area like this, just to make sure it's 100% dry. And here you can see I'm kind of rubbing the cloth along the sort of the line of the diamond rather than just up and down the entire diamond. And that's what I mean kind of by an oblique angle. And here a little bit of glue went over, so the size went over. And here I'm very carefully with my X-Acto knife, very, very gently scraping off the excess gold, which is hard on textured, on a textured surface like this. Now the hardest part, where I size the entire dragon. And when I do something finicky like this, what I do is I tend to go back to certain areas where I started and just apply a little bit more size, just to keep it fresh from drying out, so that the whole thing dries a bit more evenly. Now, despite doing that, the center bit still took the longest, but thankfully thankfully nothing dried out too much in doing this. So now this is the hard part because I basically have to I have no choice. I have to use 2 leaves to gild this. And the problem with that is when you use more than 1 leaf, you often have seams in it. So it doesn't seem seamless. There is going to be a bit of a seam. Now the problem here is I'm going to utterly fail in putting this leaf down, and it's actually going to kind of have a weird wrinkle in it. This is something you want to avoid if at all possible, and it is hard when you're doing bigger sheets like this, just because of the nature of gravity and how delicate these sheets are. Even in maneuvering it, I could be tearing that leaf at any moment accidentally. It is honestly very delicate stuff. You can buy leaf that is kind of affixed to the paper, and then you can lay the whole paper and everything down and peel the paper backing off. Yeah, there you can kind of see there's unfortunately a seam. So that kind of wrecked it, but not terribly so. Given that this is supposed to be kind of rustic and medieval, I actually find the look to be charming, and I've done enough gold leaf at this point that I kind of can make those things vanish a little bit. Now here I'm moving with a lot of speed, so I'm not cutting that bit. I just sandwiched it between 2 pieces of paper and cut it with scissors. I try to avoid that because it can often be messy and you don't always have enough paper, but because I needed that bottom section filled at the same time as the other ones, I just went for it. And if you're working on big sections here, I often recommend you lay down your rag and just kind of wipe, like press down that way, because you really want to make sure all the air bubbles are worked out. Now here, I'm trying to work that seam out. I'm just trying to see how that seam is going to go, if it's going to rip right out or if it kind of doubled over on itself and it's not going to be too bad. It turned out not being too bad at all, actually. Hardly noticeable. And then basically I'm just going to be pressing down, making sure everything is indeed secured to the glue, and you just want to take this slowly. So I grab a big old wad of the cloth. I don't want it too focused on any one area. I don't want a corner pressing into anything. I want just a big puffy padded bit of cloth, and I'm just very gently dancing it along the line, following the line of the diamond, kind of pressing outward. I'm trying to actually salvage big chunks of gilding that I can use again. You can see me doing that here. All the while leaving a purposeful jagged edge, just because I'll come back and fine-tune that later. It's a lot easier to tear off those little pieces. If you do it with the big pieces, often things tear out. It's just kind of a bit of a mess. You just have to do it in 2 steps. So now I'm speeding up the footage, and here next hardest part is these interior places. And again, I'm kind of using the same technique, but there is a danger here because I could easily tear off a bit of something if the glue was, too dry. But everything worked out this time. This bit I slowed down just so you guys have an actual idea of the speed I'm going, so you don't think that I'm actually really ripping through this. It's actually very delicate and very meandering. And that's honestly the better way to go. There you can see I pressed everything down just a little bit more. Here again, very, very slowly because I have to, reveal a head. And there's a lot of sharp, pointy bits that are, always susceptible to the glue not sticking or the gilding ripping off. And, just gently, gently revealing it all, pressing but not too hard. Gathering all my flecks on the side there, and it's just something you have to do very slowly. You're kind of revealing something is the best way of thinking about it. Kind of like an archaeological dig. You take it very slow, little by little. There's some little tines hidden in here, little pokey things I'm trying to reveal. You just got to be careful that you don't over rub it and totally take the gilding off or tear it off, and that's mainly it. And now back to the speed up. I think you guys kind of have a good enough idea of how to tackle the gilding. Sometimes you have to really gently rub at something to reveal delicate things, like those little tines, those double tines there that I was working on near the center of the dragon were kind of hard to reveal, but if you just work at it, it does kind of reveal itself. Same with letters and stuff. You just have to be careful and patient with it. Here, once again, I don't know why this fleck stuck, but it stuck. So I'm kind of digging it out with my knife, and I could only get so much of it. I was really using the point of the blade to carefully pick it out, but given how textured this canvas paper is, there's only so much I could get, which is another danger of working with gilding. You have to be very, very conscious of where your stuff is, where it's hitting, where it's not hitting. Here there's a little missing chunk right there at the bottom, and I think somewhere else too maybe. So I just applied some glue, waited for it to dry, and then used one of the flecks. And that's where the flecks really come in handy. You can use them to apply it. It never looks quite the same. You obviously want to get it all done and perfect in one round, otherwise it looks kind of wrinkled in the patch that you do it. It does draw attention to it, but I'm okay with that. You know, I've never had a perfect gilding, so, you know, a couple places like that, it just adds character. And that's my excuse anyways. So yeah, here it's basically done. Here I'm brushing it off, and you can see it's brand new, it's shiny, and it's not really showing well in camera. Filming this was quite hard because of just the nature of gold leafing. And yeah, here it is on the wall. I'm quite proud of this, very happy with it, and as time goes on, it's actually going to get a nice patina, a nice orange patina, which I'm looking forward to. And yeah, there you go, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Like, comment, subscribe, and see you in the next episode.